I'm still blending the flesh tones, adding some highlights too. You will see me adding highlights along the way. Right there, I just added a little bit of the number 1 flesh tone. You sometimes tend to lose the highlights or lowlights as you're blending, and I'm working on the clavicle right there, or also putting some halftone to let it stand out a little bit. And I'm constantly referring back to my reference. I'm adding a little bit of a highlight and blending in the shadow around the earring. See? You will constantly see me wiping my brush. You see the highlight that I keep adding, the number 1. I'm adding the shadow on the hair. And it was a little bit of cadmium yellow and cadmium red to give it that little orangey color. I'm going to start working on the golden beaded necklace, and I am adding cadmium red with cadmium yellow to create the shadow. And then I will go back with cadmium yellow with a little bit of white to give me that highlight. So for the highlight, I just added the cadmium yellow with a little bit of white, mixed in the cadmium yellow, and for the shadow it was the cadmium yellow with the cadmium red. I'm going to start working on the turquoise beaded necklace, just touching up on the shadows right now. Now for the turquoise beaded necklace, I'm going to use some phthalo green along with a little bit of ultramarine blue, and for the highlights I will add some white to that, so I will have like 2 or 3 different values for the turquoise necklace. And I'm starting with a dark. I know it doesn't look phthalo green with ultramarine, it almost looks black, but it's actually phthalo green with ultramarine blue to give it that turquoise color. There, you'll start seeing it right there. See? And I will also do that in the hair, because she seems to have some sort of beaded or beads on her hair, and now I'm going to go ahead and just add use the same technique and do it on our hair. And I will go back and blend a little bit with my clean brush. There, I'm doing the beads on the hair. Adding the highlights, and it's not just white on the highlights. The highlights are a little bit of ultramarine blue with white to give me a little bit of a gray color. And of course, for the shadows, I'm using more phthalo green with ultramarine blue to give me shadow. And all I'm adding is a strand, very light strand. And it's black with ultramarine blue. And I actually used the cool light color for the far away round piece of the hair decoration, and that's ultramarine blue, and then the closer one was ultramarine blue with white to give me that grayish looking color. And all along, when I'm adding color to her dress, some of the color that I'm adding is the skin tone colors, and I will be adding a lot of number 3, which is the coal light, and the number 4, which is the half tone. Those will later on become some of the highlights in the garment or part of the clothing design, especially in the scarf she's gonna have. And the reason I did this, I included the skin colors with the clothing, is so all the colors in the painting work together and they're all incorporated within the same painting. As I had mentioned earlier, the clothing is basically a lot of French ultramarine blue with black and deep rose and violet colors. Right now what I did is I put deep rose for the shadows in the rose to make it look more 3D, and I just added a highlight for the hair, which is cadmium yellow with some white to add that highlight. But I did it very lightly for the highlights. I hold the brush very lightly and I very lightly put the highlights. You don't press hard, it's done lightly.